Hey everybody, it's been a while. This time I like to talk about the 1998 version of the Phantom of the Opera. Dario Argento is my absolute favorite horror director. Not the one of the most masterpieces, but he has a certain captivating style that I always like to go back to. So the basic premise is that we have a guy who's been living underground for, his whole life, and he was brought up by rats. And one day he falls in love with this world-renowned opera singer Christine. And then when he tries to seduce her, Christine starts to have feelings for him back. And she also has his boyfriend Raoul, but her feelings for him slowly start to fade away as the Phantom gets closer to her. But what she doesn't know is that he has this very deep, dark secret hidden inside. Given my admiration for the director, my expectations were not necessarily sky high, but I was at least expecting a fun time. And well, to be honest, it's actually fairly mediocre, which is very disappointing considering that Dario is able to produce such great work, like Deep Red is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But this one is just... it's not completely broken, but there are a lot of problems along the way which hinder this one from becoming a true classic. But I'll start off with the positives. Julian Sands does a pretty good job as Phantom. He's not the creepiest one I've ever seen, but he does manage to produce that quietly brooding edge that kind of makes you feel a little bit uneasy whenever you see him. And you definitely buy into him really feeling a lot for Christine. They don't put a mask on him like they usually do with Phantom, but he still manages to sell on the creepiness of his character just by his pure style of delivery alone. And he also has a perfect stare size, which makes you feel like you're not sure if he's gonna attack you or if he's gonna seduce you. Most of the side characters are also pretty fun to watch. For example, we have this guy whose job is catching rats, and he also has his short companion who is not in the movie for that much, but the screen time he gets is still memorable. And we also have Christine's rivaling opera singer Carlotta, and the woman who plays her also does a pretty good job. And given that this is an Argento film, it's also very beautifully shot. Like, he really manages to build this great ominous atmosphere by the cinematography and style of filming alone. There are some scenes which feel kinda tenseful, and yeah, that's all about I can say, I guess, for positives. Okay, so the biggest problem is that the romance between Phantom and Christine is not very believable. You understand that the Phantom has very strong feelings for her, but it doesn't feel as convincing coming from Christine's side. And I think the main reasons for this is that, first of all, she just falls in love with him way too easily. He barely has any time to try and seduce her. She just instantly sees a Phantom and is like, oh my god, he's so interesting and handsome, and he really has a way of words. She doesn't say it outright, but you can tell she has that impression pretty much immediately. Like, she doesn't even seem remotely creeped out on the way he moves on her, which is just, I don't know, it's a little bit ridiculous in my opinion. I know that he has some kind of psychic power which is able to put a spell on her, but it just happens way too fast, it feels very rushed. The second reason it doesn't work is because Asia Argento's acting is pretty terrible. It's weird, she's great in Argento's early movie, The Stendhal Syndrome. She really portrays this a broken and paranoid woman very well. But in this movie, it seems like, I don't know, she seems directionless somehow. She really doesn't know how to show her emotions properly, or she overacts to the ninth fucking degree. There are scenes where her overacting is so fucking horrible that you start to laugh at how weird it is. And that's a pretty serious issue in a movie that's supposed to be pretty romantic after all. And not even just the romantic scenes, but even the scenes where she's supposed to be scared, it feels very overdone. I mean, being a scream queen in a horror movie isn't exactly the most challenging thing, but she still manages to fake it. But she still manages to make it feel very unreal, like she's gotten stuck in some direct-to-video B-movie or something. And it really clashes with Julian Sands, who's really trying his hardest to make his role memorable. And her boyfriend Raoul, I mean, he's better compared to her, but his character is not very interesting. And granted, in the silent version with Lon Chaney, the boyfriend wasn't the most interesting character either, but it was still more memorable than this one at least. And because the romance is not very well done, the movie also gets very boring. Like, this easily has the worst pacing I've seen of all Argento movies because every time you see these corny romantic scenes between Christine and the Phantom, you just kind of start to zone out. Like okay, can we move on to something more interesting? So the most exciting scenes of the movie are when the Phantom starts to hunt down threatening and killing other people instead. And one of his death scenes is very interesting to say the least. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil you which character gets killed, but you're not really gonna see it coming, that's for sure. Oh, and also, there's this ridiculously annoying plot hole which occurs about Halloween, where Christine gets her tongue bitten off by a phantom. So you expect during the rest of the movie she'll have difficulty, talking or singing or whatever, but in the very next scene she appears, her tongue is magically back like nothing happened. They don't even call attention to it, for Christ's sake. Like, you expect to find out some kind of explanation, like, oh, the Phantom gave her a new body or he gave her a new tongue or something. But no, nothing. It never gets explained, and it's so goddamn bothersome because I don't even know if it's continuing to err his attention or not, because the movie's not really that tongue-in-cheek, no pun intended. I mean, Argento usually infuses at least a little bit of humor to his movies, but this is one of his more straightforward and serious ones. But even if this movie was supposed to be like hokey on purpose, that still doesn't make that error any more excusable. And the ending of this movie is very abrupt, to say the least. I mean, there's not that much more we could have done than add another scene or two to, kind of wind things down, but it still feels like, what? That's it? The movie's already over? It just kind of leaves you baffled by the whole thing. Oh yeah, the music. The music is alright. I mean, it's not that memorable considering we are talking about the Ennio Morricone score, but it still injects a decent amount of atmosphere in the scenes where it appears. So, overall, I give The Phantom of the Opera a 6 out of 10. So if you're an Argento fan, this is really worth checking out only if you want to complete his filmography. And if you've never seen an Argento film before, I would really not recommend checking this one out first, because he's made films which are so much more exciting and, most of all, better written. I would recommend checking out something like De Pred or Phenomena, The World for Crystal Plumage, or if you want to go with his most famous one, Suspiria. But this film, it's just gonna leave you a little bit confused and let down. So that was it for this review, and hope you enjoyed watching. See you next time.